Browns back at practice today, getting ready to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars at home at Cleveland Browns Stadium. And Mary Kay, of course, we're still on quarterback watch. Joe Flacco, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who was back at practice today, that's the decision Kevin Stefanski has to make, and he is in no rush to make that decision.
No, he's not. I think we all know that it's going to be Joe Flacco. I mean, Dorian Thompson-Robinson is still in the concussion protocol. He did get out there and practice a little bit today, but based on the way that Joe played on Sunday against the LA Rams, you have to start him again. So that's going to happen. I'm going to call it right now again. But why not? Why not keep that little bit of competitive advantage that you can get against the Jaguars, keep them guessing, and give them two different style quarterbacks to have to think about?
Yeah, and Ashley, look, the Jaguars are smart enough to kind of know what's going on too, but Mary Kay's right. They still have to, just in case, spend a little bit of time, some of those precious hours, getting ready for an important game, planning for DTR.
Yeah, and let's remember, these are obviously two very different quarterbacks that the Browns have, and therefore it would be two different game plans that the Jags would have to take into account. You know, a shorter, little more of a mobile quarterback in DTR versus that more traditional pocket passer in Joe Flacco, who's obviously much bigger. Again, when we first saw Joe Flacco in person in this locker room, my first thought was, he's bigger than I ever thought. He is 6'6". You definitely feel that when you're around him. So I definitely think it makes sense at this point, if you're the Browns, to take any little bit of advantage you can when the AFC is as tight as it is.
Now let's talk about some guys that did come back from injury. Denzel Ward back on the field. Marquise Goodwin back on the field, Mary Kay. Those are two very important names, and I'm curious to see if it is Joe Flacco and if Goodwin can get out there, what it might look like with those two.
Well, the last pass that I watched in practice today was a deep ball from Joe to Marquise. And you can get plenty of that if Marquise can get back out there on the field, because he's your speed guy, he's your go ball guy, and we know the kind of arm that Joe Flacco has to get that ball downfield to stretch the defense. So that could be very, very interesting. Of course, as you mentioned, Amari Cooper was not out there, and when he's not out there, you notice that he's gone, because he is absolutely the number one receiver on this football team. So talented, so good at what he does, and here's hoping for him and for them that he can get back.
Yeah, unfortunately, Ashley, Amari's working through that concussion protocol, so we don't know. For a guy like Denzel Ward, at least, he can maybe get to a point where he can fight through that shoulder injury, but Amari's just sort of at the mercy of the protocol.
Yeah, like Kevin Stefanski, I think, said today, the protocol is the protocol. There are certain steps you have to follow, and I know for most of the time you do see a player return, try to practice. That is part of the protocol, part of the ramp up. But yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely promising that we saw Denzel Ward out there today. He told Mary Kay before he left the locker room before practice today that he was going to give it a go today. We know he's supposed to, we're maybe going to hear from him on Thursday. So all of that definitely trending in a right direction, because I think it's been so obvious to me how much this defense has missed not only his coverage ability, but his physicality these last 2 weeks.
We'll also note that Cam Mitchell was designated to return from IR, so that gives you some more reinforcements, of course, in that room as well. On the other side of things, Mary Kay, we are on full Trevor Lawrence watch. No walking boot for his press conference, but he didn't practice today.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who watched that game on Monday night and saw that gruesome ankle injury, I'm sure we all had the same thought. There is no way he's making it back for the Browns game on Sunday. But now there seems to at least be a chance. Again, as you mentioned, no walking boot as he walked up to his press conference. He said he thought it was going to be worse than it was, but still, this is a pretty significant injury. He's got a lot of healing to do in a short week.
And, look, Ashley, we talked about this on the podcast. If this were a wild card game, he would probably play. This is still an important game, so maybe that forces him to kind of get out there. Maybe he wants to get out there before he's 100%. But even if they face Trevor Lawrence and he's not 100%, that is a big break for the Cleveland Browns.
It is, and we talked about it too on the podcast, that a lot of times, especially with ankle sprains nowadays, NFL players have so many different modalities that are at their disposal. Everything from, cryo comes to mind to all the rehab they can do in the time between the injury and the next game. So I'm definitely curious, but you're right. I mean, I think knowing how Trevor Lawrence has been playing and how well he's been playing, he would not be the same if he's dealing with a pretty severe ankle injury when he comes here, even if he does try to give it a go.
And hey, if you've made it this far in the video and you're like, they have a podcast? Go to cleveland.com/Browns. You'll see it there. That's also where you will see the rest of our coverage from today at Browns practice.